Shutterstock Music.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Black College Experience. I am Derek Thomas, one half of your Black College Experience team here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we have the founder of Black College Experience in Atlanta, Georgia, the one and only Keisha Kelly. What's going on, Kels?
It is a great weekend. Once again in football, the picks are out. We're trailing all over the place. You can't tell who's gonna win what. And in football, it's a week-to-week thing. My college team won. My Saints are winning.
Why would you have to bring up the?
It's just a great.
Well, my HBCU won. My PWI didn't. So I'm happy about that.
That is a great thing. And then to make matters even sweeter, my mother got back home safely after a 2-week stay here with my sister. So she's back home. And then last but not least, my former quarterback, Austin, is now off to France. So we're excited for him. So excited. I
predict that once he grabs that starting job over there, they're going to name some type of French dish after Austin Howard. Watch and see. Once he lights it up over there, they're going to name a French dish after him. Watch. I predicted that.
That's funny.
But, October 21st, 10 days away from Halloween. And the only damper thing about this weekend is, Kels, I'm not a millionaire. I was playing the Mega Millions and the Powerball, hoping to be with a fun Black College Experience for the rest of our lives. But unfortunately, I only won $14.
Absolutely. So where do you want to start?
Well, first off, we want to stump off in the SWAC to announce that the SWAC has announced its 2018 Hall of Fame class. Some SWAC legends in this class that we all know about, because I know we talked before about Ace Mumford not being in the Black College Hall of Fame, but now in the SWAC Hall of Fame. To run down these SWAC legends who are getting inducted. First is Alcorn State's Dave Washington Jr., 10-year NFL vet. Alabama State's Larry Watkins. Grambling State's Ralph A. Garr. Jackson State's Eric Struthers. Prairie View's Nathaniel Gross. And longtime league administrator Lonzo Hardy. Lonzo Hardy worked at Valley. I remember him. And I know you're happy about this, Kels. Southern University's Roger Cador, baseball legend. What do you think about Coach Cador being elected into the SWAC Hall of Fame?
Of course, we were super excited. We said they didn't waste any time on giving Cador his props. They moved him in quickly. So super duper excited for him. It's well deserved. Everyone knows the allegiance that Roger Cador. And I was telling somebody the funny thing about Cador, when we had our alumni conference in July in Baton Rouge, he was being honored in the it's like Celebration of Life, or it's like the gala, and it's the one that Roland Martin was actually doing. And so when it was Coach Cador's turn, you can pretty much tell when it's your turn. It's like, okay, Derek Thomas, they give all your accolades. Keisha Kelly, and you know that on the list you see your name. Roger Cador is next. Coach Cador is in the crowd shaking hands like it ain't about to be his.
Yes,
so
indeed.
He's looking like, okay, well, y'all wait on me. But it was so hilarious. And so, it's just that type of impact that we know that he served, that he had. He still has his hands in that baseball program. But again, it's well deserved, and so excited for him.
Yes, indeed. He's well deserved. He's a SWAC legend. All those SWAC championships. The only Golden Spice Award winner for HBCUs, Ricky Weeks. If anyone deserves to be elected to the SWAC Hall of Fame, it's Coach Cador. And I know that Dean. That's my line, brother PP. What's going on, Frat? PP, you there?
Yeah.
Everything
goes well when you win in homecoming.
Yeah, we're going to get to that a little later. We're going to start out with the big game in the SWAC. A rematch of several SWAC championship games. This game has been a big game in the SWAC for the past couple of years. Alcorn versus Grambling. You know, Grambling been struggling this year. Alcorn, of course, looking like the beast of the East, but Grambling jumped out on Alcorn 13-0, and I'm pretty sure the Grambling Tigers were excited about that. But you know, you cannot expect the Braves to just let Grambling just run wild. Braves did come back to take a 16-13 lead, and they did not relinquish the lead. Well, they did. They did again. It was a back and forth game. It got it to be tied 26 all until Alcorn scored a touchdown with 12 seconds left to ice the game and break the hearts of Grambling Tigers, or the Grambling State Tigers fans, because we all know Grambling fans feel like they're the SWAC favorites, even though right now they sit firmly in third place in the SWAC West. They still feel like they're going to be SWAC champs. Kale, what do you think about this game, Alcorn versus Grambling?
Well, as predicted last week, I knew that Alcorn would come away with it. Alcorn is just a tough opponent on both the west and the east side.
Tough.
Of course, we saw how they totally dominated Southern for homecoming, 20-3. You know, it was some things there that they can improve upon, but you know, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And they have been proving themselves for the past 3-4 years. So, you know, I think they are a tough opponent. I think they are a great contender for the East. For anybody that was at that game, I would love to have been at that game. I knew it would come down to the wire. But, again, I picked Alcorn as the favorite to win. That's what happens in the end.
You know, offensive stars in this game. Hickenbottom had a good game stats-wise. He threw for 279 yards, but no touchdowns. They ran by committee. Grambling did. Hickenbottom also led the team in rushing. Alcorn was led in passing by, of course, Noah Johnson, 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Running back by committee again. P.J. Simmons is on the Walter Payton award list, but you know he was the third option here. D. Waller has firmly taken over that position. He ran for 74 yards and a touchdown. Noah Johnson 44 yards to pace the Alcorn Braves. Callaway alum, Charger alum Dayal Harris led the Braves in receiving with 3 catches for 50 yards. For the Tigers, Quentin Geist 4 receptions for 84 yards. As Alcorn looks to be dominant in the East. Up next is a game that not many people expected Jackson State to compete in. They played against newbie, former Division II power, now FCS member, North Alabama, a team that I know very well, coached by another Callaway alum legend, Bobby Wallace, to national championships. They defeated Jackson State 24-7. The Tigers now fall to 3-3, 2-1. They did, you know, the much maligned Jackson State offense was able to score, but not until the fourth quarter. So we know what's coming up next for Jackson State Boombox Classic down here in Baton Rouge. Up next, Kills, your Southern Jaguars are in control of their destiny. They defeated Texas Southern 21-7 behind another good game from Ladarius Skelton. Not a lot of passing yards in this game, but he's led his team to 2 victories. Let's see here. Get these stats here so I can see how Ladarius did it. He completed 8 of 22 passes. Not a good percentage-wise for 74 yards and 1 touchdown. Lampley did come in relief of an injured Skelton. He completed 3 of 8 passes for 27 yards and 1 touchdown. Skelton did score a touchdown on the ground. He had 60 yards. Ben led the Jaguars with 81 yards on the ground. So, you know, I was talking with BJ earlier. No, that was Manny earlier about this Boombox Classic coming up, how he feels Jackson State will do. And, you know, with Skelton injured, if he can bounce back from this injury, this puts the Jaguars offense back to square one. But Lampley did come in and spark your Jags, Kels, and help lead your Jaguars to this win. So John Lampley is a good backup quarterback to have. What do you think about that?
No, it is one of those things. In this case, it would be a team effort. It's going to be week to week. And it's like I tell people, you know, you have to go game by game. You can't look so far ahead. In this case, like we said, that, you know, with Jackson State, their offense is not playing up to par. Their defense is what's securing them. So, even with he said tweaked his ankle. So I think he sprained his ankle, tweaked his ankle or something. I guess we'll see on Saturday what happens. But I mean, I'm still gonna roll with the Jaguars. Still gonna roll with Southern in this case.
I'm still gonna roll with the Jaguars too against them Tigers with that in-depth offense. Yeah, they beat my Delta Devils, so what? I don't care. Speaking of our Delta Devils, PP, and of course, Kels, you know why I saved this game for last. It was homecoming in Itabena for our alma mater, and it wasn't looking good for us. Arkansas Powder jumped out to a nice lead. PP, were you at the game? Pretty sure you were.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, talk to us about how our Delta Devils was able to come back and claim homecoming victory.
Oh, our rush defense is still, it's still coming along. So when they started, it was 27-13 early in the fourth quarter, and that's when our rushing offense just they couldn't stop us. You got pretty much a running back at quarterback, and Bryant, and Chambers had a 65-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter that would tie the game up. Then we jumped out to the lead. They tied it, and it was just an exciting game. And then when the Pine Bluff kicker doinked extra point attempt off in the second overtime, so they couldn't stop us. Yeah, they couldn't stop us on the ground. So I think we scored on 2 plays on that last drive, and all we had to do was just make the extra point.
Right. And like you said, our rushing offense has been non-existent for years. What a way to wake up the rushing offense. 380 yards, 7 touchdowns, led by 174 yards, 3 touchdowns by Derek Bryant. Booker Chambers, normally known for his receiving prowess, had 7 carries for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. John Derry Smith had 2 touchdowns. So, what a way for our offense to wake up. I know I'm happy. I wish we could have did it against them hated Tigers, but I'm just happy that we were able to secure a homecoming victory. Unlike someone else on this Phones team, not able to secure a homecoming victory.
Oh, yeah. that might, we're going to probably have to go through the rest of this year as a rushing team. If we can, we use Chambers as a running back. We also use Harper as a running back. So you can use that running game to set up the pass, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we did against PB yesterday.
All right. So that's the end of our SWAC recap. We're going to jump over to the MEAC. Had 4 games in the MEAC, and of course, all 4 of the MEAC games were available on ESPN3. So if you're an HBCU alum and you're a MEAC fan, you got a chance to watch all your games on ESPN3. Just to recap, South Carolina State defeated Delaware State 30-19. Norfolk State versus NCCU. This is the game that we picked, and we had several people pick Norfolk State. I was one of the lucky ones who picked NCCU. Both teams have been kind of middle of the road, but NCCU exploded for a 30-point victory, 36-6 over Norfolk State. Kels, what do you think about NCCU's offensive explosion in this game?
They went off. And they went off. I figured they would win. We picked them to win, but geez, they went off. They went off a little further than I thought they were going to be. And that's why I keep saying from week to week, you can't predict what's going to go on, because one week someone will be up, the next week they'll be down. But they were clicking on all cylinders yesterday.
Yes, indeed. And the last but not least, the favorite in the MEAC, who has just had an up and down. I'm sorry, before we go to that team, Howard, had to come back and defeat Morgan State. Kalen Newton was not his normal self. Howard had to come back in the fourth quarter to defeat Morgan State, and they defeated the Morgan State Bears 35-26. And for the last game in the MEAC, A&T defeats Bethune-Cookman 35-10 to try and catch FAMU, which, it's going to be kind of hard for them to catch FAMU unless FAMU loses. But North Carolina A&T trying to do its best. PP, this was an offense that you criticized last week. But the Aggies woke up this game.
Hey, I think I mean, what I said about Bethune, they showed against that. If you can stop their quarterback Williams or contain him, he's basically their offense, and we know that A&T defense is good enough to shut down your strength, and that's what they need.
Well, I was talking about NCAT because they lost when they lost last week. But they had a 2-quarterback system yesterday. Lamar Raynard, Walter Payton Award, list watch member. He completed 11 for 14 passes for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. Khalil Carter, quarterback of the future, completed 7 of 17 passes for 104 yards and 1 touchdown. And Marquette Cartwright only rushed for 48 yards. Jay Martin ran for 120 yards and 1 touchdown. So, the Aggies trying to find offense all around. Lajrell, of course, leads them in receiving with 105 yards and a touchdown. Ron Hunt, 89 yards and a touchdown. So the Aggies, trying to stay in the hunt for the MEAC championship for a chance to participate in the Celebration Bowl. Of course, FAMU had an off week. So next week, we'll see what our games will be because we will pick games next week. But things are heating up across the HBCU football landscape, as far as in the respective conferences. North Carolina A&T, like I said, is,
Before we go into that, let's take a commercial break.
All right, we'll be right back in 31 seconds for more Black College Experience.
Are you interested in attending an historically black college or university? Hello, my name is Robert Mason. I'm president and founder of the Common Black College application. Our application allows you to apply to any number of 44 historically black colleges and universities at the same time for only $35. So visit our website at www.commonblackcollegeapp.com to apply now. Thank you, and get educated.
All right, we're back with more Black College Experience. And, I was getting ready to talk about the standings for each conference for the SWAC and the MEAC. Right now, Alcorn is in first in the SWAC East, sitting at 4-1, followed by Jackson State at 2-1, Alabama A&M 2-2, Alabama State at 1-1, Valley at 1-2, Kales Jaguars sitting comfortably in number 1 spot at 3-1 in the SWAC. Prairie View 2-1, Grambling 2-2, and Texas Southern and Arkansas Pine Bluff are tied at 0-3 apiece. And in the MEAC, of course, FAMU is number 1 with a 4-0 record. We have a 2-way tie for a second with North Carolina A&T and Howard at 3-1, NCCU 2-1, Bethune-Cookman and South Carolina State at 2-2, Norfolk State and Montgomery State at 1-2, and Savannah State at 0-3, and Delaware State 0-4. So, the battle for the championships in both respective conferences is heating up as we're heading toward, the end of the football season. It's just an awesome time to be an HBCU football fan, y'all.
It is. There's so much going on. Even if we look across the board, and of course we will get into the GCAC, the Gulf Coast. Once Commissioner calls in, it's so much. And as we transition out of football, then we'll get into track and field, basketball, and all the things that's going on over there because it's so much going on. And we'll look at the the preseason rankings and the predictive order of finish. And the great thing is one of our programs that we don't talk about as much is Langston. And for people that don't know, Langston moved to 6-1. They're 6-1. They've lost 1 game.
Well, they're in our picks, and I picked them. We all picked Langston,
right? So they're moving up the ranks, and they beat on homecoming they beat their opponent 48-21. So D2 NAI they are playing some hardcore football. And I tell people you can't doubt a school just because they're not in your conference and they play good to be in that conference or they play good for this conference. That doesn't mean anything. Because these are the same people that come here, and we don't know what the fate would have been of the Southern Jaguars had that game not been stopped due to lightning or rain or whatever it was. So we don't know what the fate would have been. But nevertheless, Langston is playing great football. They
They are. I mean, that, like I said, that was homecoming. I think Lion is also called the Lions. So that was the Battle of the Lions, and the Langston Lion reigned supreme. So they were the king of the Lions as far as that game is concerned. So, and I like Langston. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of fire. I mean, they did not want to concede their game due to the lightning storm. So, you know, I like this. I like the coach. He has confidence in his program. He's, like I said, he's a former SWAC player, transferred to Langston, and he made his home there. And he's trying to build that program up. But before our commissioner calls in from the GCAC calls, I wanted to run through the other two HBCU conferences, the SEAC and the CIAA, and we had some good news over in the SEAC. Robert Morris and Central State, they had an offensive juggernaut. They had over 1,000 yards worth of offense, but unfortunately, Central State falls to Robert Morris 49-45. Tuskegee kills. My God, Tuskegee shut out Kentucky State, defeating them 37-0. Lane defeats Miles with a last-second field goal. Albany State defeats Clark 36-3. Fort Valley State falls to Lenore Ringling University 30-20, and Morehouse gets back in the winning column and knocks out Benedict from that top spot in the division with a 14-10 and raining on Benedict's parade. So I hear a ding, and let me see who that is on our line. That is area code 504, last four 7694. You're on with the Black College Experience. Who do we have?
You have Steve Martin.
Oh, yes. That is our guest of honor. Okay, let's go ahead and introduce our guest to our listening audience.
Okay, so we do have, as he just told you, this is Steve Martin. This is the commissioner of the GCAC. Of course, we did have of course, our commentary was back and forth on Twitter. So y'all know we love to hop on Twitter and talk to people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's how this came about. So we're not going to delay this. We're going to go ahead and bring the commissioner on to tell everybody about his conference, since, of course, we know what's going on in the SWAC, the MEAC, the SEAC, the CIAA. So we want to bring in some GCAC and see what's going on over there, because we know it's a lot going on, and we're excited for you to tell us what's going on tonight.
Well, first, let me say I want to thank you guys for having me on. It is absolutely a pleasure and an honor, and it's good for me. And I love talking about the GCAC. And as you know, the GCAC stands for the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. And what's different, and I'm going to say what's special about the GCAC, is we are the only conference in the NAIA that consists of all HBCUs. In our conference, we have Dillard University, Xavier University, Southern University at New Orleans. Those three schools are located in New Orleans. Then we have Talladega, Tougaloo College, Russ College, along with Philander Smith and Edward Waters College. So we have 8 colleges and universities in our conference. And as I said, we are the only conference in the NAIA that consists of all HBCUs. So I'm very excited about that, and always excited to tell our story.
Okay.
Well, I'm from Mississippi, and even though I grew up, Jackson State Tiger, I have roots at Tougaloo College. I grew up on that college campus at the NYSP program. Got my first taste of Greek life on that campus, so I'm familiar with the Tougaloo College Bulldogs. I am definitely also familiar with Russ College, the Bearcats up in Holly Springs, Mississippi. Via my pastor, Reverend Dr. Jerry Young. He's an alum of Russ College. And I got a chance to visit Russ College, a nice little small college up in Holly Springs. I mean, definitely a institution that's providing education for that region of Mississippi. So, I'm glad because they just joined the GCAC. So I'm glad they were able to join.
And that's funny. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to say.
Go ahead.
No, you say it. You go ahead and say it.
The same thing. I guess we all have a connection with someone from Russ College, because I know someone that played basketball for Russ College, and just here this semester she sent her daughter to Southern University in Baton Rouge. And then I met another guy that works for Russ College, and he has so much pride in that school. So I guess we just all have some type of connection to that college. No, you go ahead, Commissioner.
Right. Well, you know, what I was going to say is, you know, we have the 8 colleges and universities, and they're all very strong academically. So that's the first thing that we're extremely proud about. That, you know, when you look at Xavier University, they are one of the top pharmaceutical and pre-med colleges in the entire country. That consists of HBCUs along with majority white schools. So very strong academically. And Philander Smith, Tougaloo College, all ranked very high in HBCUs nationally. So we're very strong academically, and we're very proud of that factor. And I will tell you, athletically, we've come a long way. I've been the commissioner of the conference going into my 5th year now. And when I first started as commissioner, we had some challenges. We had some challenges from the standpoint that we had some schools that was looking to get out of the conference. We did have a couple of schools that left the conference. So it was my job at that point to, number one, bring some stability to the conference. And then at the same time, look at the conference from a business standpoint, you know, how we can increase and improve on our image, our branding, bring in, generate revenues, marketing partners, things of that nature. And then to look at how we use digital and social media. That became extremely big and very important to us. So over the last 3 or 4 years, we were able to turn some things around. Like you said, we added Russ to the conference, which is now, you know, showing that we have schools that are interested in joining us. Last year, we added Adidas as a conference-wide marketing partner with us.
That's amazing.
And we're going to make an announcement in another week or two about another actual, I'm going to say, global brand. And I'll give you the heads up. We're going to add Tabasco as one of our marketing partners. Mm-hmm. And we're actually looking to do some big things with Tabasco. So, you know, we are starting, and we have turned things around from a branding standpoint, and how we build our conference to be a really good, I'm going to say, asset where companies would look at us and want to be involved with us from a marketing standpoint. So we've had a lot of success in those areas.
Right, and you stated academics. I definitely know about Tougaloo College's academics. I mean, I spent summers on that campus as part of the Howard Hughes chemistry program, preparing me for college. You know, had opportunities to participate in the Upward Bound program on Tougaloo's campus. So Tougaloo College is definitely a gem in academics. You know, not necessarily known for its athletics, because Tougaloo doesn't have a football team, but Tougaloo Bulldogs have one of the best basketball coaches that I've ever known, and that's Thomas Billups. He's a championship caliber high school coach, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get Tougaloo College winning championships soon too. So, like I said, I know all about Tougaloo College. I grew up not far from it. Matter of fact, if I didn't end up at Valley or Jackson State, I probably would have ended up at Tougaloo.
Look, we would have loved to have had you at Tougaloo College, and you're absolutely right. Look, we do understand that, you know, our student athletes are not going to necessarily go on and play in the NBA or in the NFL. However, when you look at Talladega College, they have a number every year. They have baseball players that get drafted by major league teams. And that's a huge plus. But we know that's a long shot. So we do put a premium on the education and put a premium on the experience of being in college and really enjoying college life while you have that opportunity, because that's the special time in life for the most part. So those things are very important to us. Now, we are competitive, and I always want to see our teams compete at a high level. Every year we send men's and women's basketball teams to the NAIA Nationals. We compete very well at the Nationals. We're very strong in volleyball.
Oh, yes,
right now we have two undefeated conference volleyball teams, and that's It's going to be a showdown next weekend. Xavier University is 8-0 in the conference, along with Tougaloo. They are 8-0, and they've turned their volleyball program around. So that is going to be a huge matchup. Now, I will say another thing about volleyball. So last week, Dillard University played Xavier University in volleyball, and that's a huge crosstown rivalry in New Orleans in any sport. And I will tell you, I saw the largest volleyball crowd at that volleyball match, and we had well over 1,300 students that attended that volleyball game. And it was a lot of excitement for the students. The game was played at Dillard University. The students from Xavier that came across town, they were on buses, and it was a great atmosphere, a great college atmosphere, especially for a volleyball game, because people tend not to come to volleyball games. So we see that as a huge opportunity where we are starting to really build our brand and build our image on the volleyball courts. So that was very big for us to see that big of a crowd at one of our volleyball games.
And it's funny you bring up volleyball because Xavier had a outstanding squad last year, and they're back this year. Tougaloo struggled last year, but they've come back with a firestorm. Challenging Xavier. Not just gonna let them have another championship. So it's good to see competition. Right. I mean, Dillard and Xavier. When you say two crosstown schools and having a volleyball crowd like that, I mean that's great. I mean to have fans come out to support a sport that's not necessarily revenue generating, because those student athletes deserve to have crowds cheering for them, and I'm glad that the fans came out to cheer for those young ladies, and just to support them in any way that they can.
Yeah, and that is, and it was huge support. So we started to see the trend with volleyball, with more of the students coming out and providing that support. And as you know, going to any athletic competition at an HBCU is very different anyplace else, because we will have our DJ, we'll have our dancers, we'll have our cheerleaders, we'll have our in-between match shows and things of that nature. So it was an experience, and it was a very well put together production by Dillard University. And those are the things that, when I talk about the branding of the conference and enhancing our image, we're striving so hard to make sure that all of our championship events, our games, that they're first class. And it's about the experience. Look, I love the competition, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure that those who come to see the competition have a great experience. So we put a lot of effort into really making the experience something that's different and something that's going to be memorable to our student athletes, our alumni, and also the administration.
Exactly. Now, just looking at some of the sports that you participate in fall, of course, football, you have one school, Edward Waters, men's soccer, one school participates in that, and that's Talladega. Volleyball, the whole conference participates. And women's soccer, Talladega. Of course, basketball, all schools participate. And baseball, you have 4 of your conference teams to participate. That's Edward Waters, Russ, Talladega, and Tougaloo. Tennis, Tougaloo and Xavier. And softball, Edward Waters, Russ, and Talladega. Women's tennis, Tougaloo and Xavier. I wanted to ask you, as a conference, do you anticipate any other members trying to add other sports to grow the conference as far as adding athletic teams to compete?
Yes, that is a very important question. And before I answer that question, I will also say we're very competitive in cross country, also track and field, where all of our schools participate in those sports. So to answer your question, as we look at expansion, because that is part of our strategic plan, we do want to add schools where, those universities have, baseball, softball, and those sports where we don't have as many schools that are competing in those sports. So there's 2 levels of the expansion piece. One, is to look at the schools that are currently in the conference, and we're having those discussions as to, can you support other sports? So Xavier University, Dillard University, can you support a baseball team or a softball team? So that's one part of the equation on expansion. And then when we look outside of the conference and we look at other schools that we would like to join the conference, we do look first, do they have baseball? Do they have soccer? Do they have softball? Because, one thing about being in the NAIA, you have to have a minimum of 6 teams or 6 schools that have a team in a sport in order to qualify or get an automatic qualifier to the national tournament. So as you say, for baseball, we have 4. So we would need 2 more schools with baseball in order for us to get a national or an automatic qualifier to the nationals. So we are in the process. We are discussing. We have had discussions with some other universities about joining the conference. And then we're also looking at strategically those schools that may be able to support some other sports to increase the number of baseball, softball, and tennis, things of that nature. So it's ongoing, it's ongoing discussions. And I have to tell you, so when we first started having a discussion with Russ College to join the conference, that was a 2-year process. It was a process where they had to go through the NAIA. The NAIA had to come and see their campus, evaluate them financially, et cetera. And then once they got through that process to the NAIA, then Russ had to apply for membership with the GCAC. And that's a process that our presidents really managed for the most part. So it really was a 2-year process. So as we are talking to some schools now in 2018, we do anticipate as we get to 19 and 20 that we do have some additional schools added to the conference.
Yes, indeed, and that's a good thing. I mean, because you want to grow your conference. Because you have other NAIA HBCUs who are in the Red River Conference. You have Texas College, and you have, who else is in that conference? You have several HBCUs who are in mixed conferences, and right now it's working for them, but it would be nice to have all our HBCUs affiliated with HBCU conferences, because to have like Wiley College, even though it wasn't an athletic competition, they're known for their debate team. Movie great debate. Correct. They just had another outstanding performance by their debate team, even though that's not a sport. To have that affiliated with an HBCU conference, that brings great exposure, not only to Wiley, but to the other HBCU conferences, other HBCU members that are in the conference, and also to the GCAC as well. So, I mean, I'm glad for Wiley College for what those students have done with the conference that they're in, but it would just be a little sweeter if, you were home with an HBCU conference. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And look, and the other side of it is there are some independent NAIA schools that are HBCUs that we are pursuing, and we would love for them to join our conference. And our theory is, if you're going to compete, athletically, and you're going to have, teams that play basketball, volleyball, et cetera, and be independent, why be independent when you can join a conference? Because, you're incurring those costs anyway. Exactly. To be independent. And being independent, there's not necessarily kind of that, that sight to a national championship, so to speak. So we're looking at and we're talking to some of those independent schools about joining the conference because it would just make some sense. And it also makes sense from a geographic standpoint, because when you look at the GCACs, and I always get concerned about this because we have Edward Waters all the way in Jacksonville, and then we have Philander Smith in Little Rock, Arkansas. So when you start talking about the cost of having to travel, that becomes very big and very expensive to those schools.
Right.
But if we can add 10 to 12 schools, and then we can split our conference up into the east, west, or north, south, that starts to help to reduce some of the travel costs. So all those things are very important to us. But looking at some of those independent schools that are HBCUs that would be a good fit for us, those are some of the schools that we're having conversations with right
Like,
now.
for example, Langston, West Virginia State,
Like,
Lincoln, Missouri, Virginia Lynchburg, Allen, who just brought back football, and of course the aforementioned Texas College. You know,
correct.
So,
And then you have schools like Fisk. Yep, you have
Yes.
Oakwood. I mean, there are a lot of HBCUs that are independent.
and it would be nice to have.
So
them come.
let me
Go ahead,
hop
Candace.
in there. Let me hop in right there. When you talk about Oakwood, because I'm from Huntsville, and I had this conversation with a couple of people, and right now one of the main things, because it being that it's an Adventist school, one of the things, of course, that right now, because we talk about social media, that's a big thing. Also, bands are a big thing right now. The band age is like a band age. People are liking bands and dancers and all of that thing. And the guy talked about one of the guys I spoke with, he talked about how, we're not really at HBCU because we don't have a band and we don't have a football team and we don't have X, Y, and Z. Going there, saying that about, possibly, speaking with Oakwood, what obstacles have you found yourself going up against, like speaking to some of these schools about possibly joining the conference?
Well, when you start talking about joining a conference and people have been independent for such a long period of time, some of the things that come up is scheduling. Because like I said, if you take Oakwood for an example, they may not travel as far as Little Rock, Arkansas. So will there be any additional costs that they would have to incur for travel and things of that nature? And that's why it's important when we talk about expansion that we strategically do it and look at schools that make geographic sense. Okay, so travel expense and operating expenses are always going to be top of the order whenever we're talking to anybody about joining the conference. Is it going to cost them any more money to join our conference than it would if they stay independent? We're not, in the case of an Oakwood who don't have football, we wouldn't go to them and say that we need you to start a football team, because that's going to be cost prohibited to a lot of universities. So we don't look at it from that perspective. We really look at it, is it a good fit for both, the GCAC and those individual schools. When we brought Russ in, Russ was actually losing some sports, okay? We didn't tell them that, you have to keep, some of the sports that you have. What we said is, come in with what you have, and then across the board, we can all jointly look at what we can develop together. So the biggest thing is always the cost. Is there any additional cost? What I try to encourage all the schools, especially those who are independent, look at your current schedule, look at who you're playing now. A lot of those schools already play most of our GCAC schools, and that's why we really started to pinpoint them. Oakwood, they come to New Orleans, they play Xavier, they play Dillard, they go and play Edward Waters in basketball and volleyball. So some of those things are like easy match for the most part. But the first question that always comes up is cost factor. And those are the things that we just try to work through with the individual schools. We try to be as transparent as possible and say, this is what the schedule will look like. This is what your travel will look like. You can go and put some numbers to it to see if it's going to be a huge increase or it's just going to stay neutral for the most part. So that's always the crux of the conversation, cost.
Okay, I did. Now, over the weekend, looks like, did you guys come off the cross-country championship?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about that. Look, brag on those teams, because I saw a lot of medals going down the Twitter timeline. I saw a lot of medals going on. I was like, I don't know who else competing, but I just saw medal. I kept seeing breaking news. Talk to us about the championship this weekend, and congratulations.
Thank you. Well, the championships were, for cross country, they were held at Choctaw Trails in Clinton, Mississippi. Choctaw Trails, and I learned this about 3 years ago from our track and field coaches. It is a beautiful cross country course, and it is a course specifically for cross country. The NCAA has held many of its regionals at Choctaw Trails. We're there. The SWAC has this cross-country championships there. It is a beautiful course. So, Xavier University has also dominated cross-country over the last several years. So that's why you saw all those kind of breaking news, gold medals, and things of that nature. They really take a lot of pride in a cross-country program. But I'm going to say this: Philander Smith, who 2 years ago did not have a track and field program, they really had to start all over with their track and field program. This was the second year that they brought a team to compete in the cross country, and they wound up taking second place in the men's. And their coach, very young coach, and this is only his second year as a head coach, he was selected as the men's cross country coach of the year, which is a huge honor for him. And I was really excited for him because he took a program that really didn't have a program, and he really has built it over in a very short period of time. So it was very competitive. So when you see cross country and breaking news, so the top 10 runners on the men's side and the women's side, they get all conference honors, and that's all based on times. And then the top winner gets the most valuable runner of the track meet for the most part. But it was a very good track meet. We had over 100 cross-country athletes, both men and women, that competed in it. And it was very good. So what we try to do, and what you consistently see from our social media, we really put out a lot on social media. And we really make it a point. And our student athletes, along with our students, they also engage a lot on our social media. One thing that I talked to some of our business partners about a couple of weeks ago was the number of impressions that we've had in our social media from January to the end of September. We created over 1.6 million impressions in social media. And that's because we finally learned that our student athletes, along with our students, they get so engaged in social media. So a lot of videos, just a lot of information we are constantly pushing on social media. So it was a very good event for us cross country. And in about 3 weeks, we'll move on to the volleyball tournament, which will be held here in New Orleans at SUNO, at Southern University of New Orleans. So it's a good time for the GCAC, and obviously basketball practice has started, and you'll see a lot of chatter about the upcoming basketball season also.
No, they did. They just tweeted that, and they were talking about the predicted, the preseason rankings. Anything you want to drop on us about the basketball season, men and women's basketball season, or any particular teams coming out of the GCAC?
Well, first on the women's side of the GCAC, what you will see, I think, in my opinion, and I have seen the votes also, and the votes will be preseason votes will be released in the next couple of days. Dillard University, who won the conference last year, they're returning, I think, 3 of their starters from last year. I think one of the surprises in the conference will be, on the women's side, will be Edward Waters. They had a very strong year last year. They just missed getting an invitation to the national tournament. They lost to Dillard in the conference tournament. But most of their starters are returning, and they had a very good team last year. So we expect a lot coming out of Edward Waters. Now, when you look at the remainder of the conference, Xavier University is going to be very competitive. They stay very competitive every year. And then you can't count out Tougaloo. Tougaloo is a very, very good basketball team. They're very well coached. On the men's side, it gets extremely competitive also. For the last 2-3 years, Dillard University has been on top of the conference, and he has a lot of players returning. Also on the men's side, kind of interesting, the coach Coach Summers, who was formerly at Talladega, he moved over to Edward Waters College, and Coach Summers is a very good basketball coach. He was moving the program at Talladega back to national promise. 2 years ago, Talladega got to the Final Four of the NAIA National Tournament, and he had done a very good job. But he moved over to Edward Waters, so there will be a rivalry between Edward Waters and Talladega. But right now, Dillard University is probably the top of the men's with Xavier. Probably a very close second, but I would not count out Talladega or Edward Waters. And on any given night in our conference, you will see very competitive games, and anybody could be beat on any given night for the most part. But we've been very proud of the competitive level in the conference. And again, we get, on the men's side, 2 teams that get invited to the Nationals. Last year, Dillard on the women's side got invited to the Nationals. So again, we're looking for a very competitive basketball season. And also with basketball, we do have some great rivalries, as you can imagine, in New Orleans with Dillard, Xavier, and Suno. Whenever they play each other, those are standing room only crowds. If you don't come early, you don't get in. Regardless of what their records are, those are very competitive, and students and alumni really want to see those games for the most part. So we're looking forward to a good basketball season, a really good basketball season.
Right, and I'm gonna try to make my way down to New Orleans to check out some of those games. So when you see my credential request come across, go ahead and stamp approve on that for me.
You got it. Look, we would love to have you guys come to New Orleans, and first you can enjoy New Orleans, but please come and see some of our competition. Interview our coaches. We have some very good personable coaches, a lot of good characters, and they do a good job. And we're really looking for some good things that come along in basketball. Now, I will say this. When I first started as commissioner, one of the challenges that I had, and I was thinking about, I was watching last night, I was watching the Lakers and the Houston Rockets play, and I was watching the brawl that broke out. When I first started as commissioner, we had issues with technical fouls and, scuffles and things like that. And that's one thing that I had to impress upon our coaches, our athletic directors, and our presidents, because when you see stuff like that, and if you see it a lot, then people are not going to invest in us. So we have really improved our product on the court, volleyball, track and field, etc., where people want to be a part of the GCAC, and not just from a recruiting standpoint, but from a marketing and from a sponsorship standpoint.
Exactly.
But we have a lot of good young people, a lot of good young student athletes who understand what a good image is all about, and we constantly talk to our student athletes, about their image and what they're projecting and who they're representing, and all that has really turned into good positives for the conference and our individual schools.
Right. And we actually have interviewed Coach Ruffin of Edward Waters. Good guy. He was a great interview. I like what he's doing at Edward Waters in his first year. And, can't wait to have him on again, talk about his first year at Edward Waters. And almost definitely we're going to be hitting up some of the sports information directors and trying to schedule some of the coaches at the respective universities. I know I want Coach Billups because I have a tie to Coach Billups. I've known him once he found. I'm gonna have to make him remember who I am. But I've known Coach Billups for a while. I grew up with his daughter. So once I tell him who I am, he's gonna be like, "Oh, you doing sports media?" Like, yeah, I remember you running around, didn't know what you was doing. So now I'm a full grown man now, and and it's good to see Coach Billups still coaching after he left Lanier.
Yeah.
And he was able to stay in the metro area at Tougaloo, and he's an asset. I mean, when you hear the name Coach Billups, that brings credibility to Tougaloo, which brings credibility to the GCAC.
Yeah. And I tell you also, Todd Day is in his second and it's going into his third year as a coach in the GCAC. And like you say, having a name like Todd Day, who's a former NBA player, who's a former college NCAA All-American, who is now coaching in our conference, that helps add credibility to what we're doing and what we're trying to do, and as we try to attract quality student athletes into our schools. So when you talk about a Coach Billups or Todd Day or Coach Summers down at Edward Waters, those things are important to us, extremely important to us, that we have quality, upstanding coaches who are going to be mentors to our student athletes. So you're absolutely right. You know, the Billups of the world, he's a legend in Mississippi.
Yes.
He's a good coach and he's a good person. And all those things are
he's
very
a
important.
disciplinarian too.
Yeah, he is.
So you're not going to have to worry about none of that foolishness happening like you were talking about, you know, brawls. Oh, he's not going to have it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Commissioner Martin, we want to thank you for blessing us with your us being a guest on the Black College Experience as we look to strengthen our relationship with the GCAC. As you know, we have connection to you, and now we're just going to be looking to grow that. You're now part of the Black College Experience family, so you don't have to be invited on. If between the hours of 6 p.m. Central Time or 7 p.m. Eastern Time, if you want to call in and talk HBCU, by all means, feel free to call in because that's what we like.
Okay.
So
well, look, I'm going to take you up. I'm going to take you up on that offer, and as you can see, I can talk a lot, so I would be more than happy to give you a call and just talk about what's going on in the conference, and you know, both from a competitive level, what we're doing from a business standpoint. We're about to launch a digital media network.
Oh, wow,
so things like that. I would love to come back and talk some more.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Please
when you come
do.
back, you're going to have to give us some John Thompson stories.
Okay.
You know what? We will be your way in a couple of weeks. Bayou Classic. So Thanksgiving weekend, of course, we will be in New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get into New Orleans on Thursday, and I'll be there for Sunday. So if I run across your path anywhere, Commissioner, I'll make sure I let you know and formally introduce myself.
Okay, let me know. You know, you guys have my number. Please give me a call, and I absolutely would love to come back. I would love to tell y'all some Coach Thompson, as we call him, some Big John stories from the past, and continue to talk about the GCAC. I love what you guys are doing, and we love being a part of it. So we truly appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir.
Thank
you for joining us.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, Commissioner.
Good night.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Oh, Chaos, he was amazing. I mean,
definitely shoot me his number.
To have
I definitely want to meet up with him.
Yeah, to have someone like that, you know, educated at Georgetown, a former professional basketball player in his own right, you know, running the GCAC and growing it like he has plans to grow it. I mean, it's just amazing. Leadership matters. And we have new leadership in the SWAC. We have a tremendous leadership in the MEAC with Dr. Thomas. And from talking with Mr. Martin, he is a tremendous leader in his own right. And hopefully we'll get a chance to have meetings, interviews with the conference leaders of the CIAA and the SEAC. Speaking of the CIAA, we want to run through these games before we get out of here. Shaw beat up on Johnson C. Smith 42-9. Shawan defeated Elizabeth City State 44-20. Bowie State defeated Virginia Union 27-13. Always go with Amir Hall, Kels. Don't bet against Amir. Fayetteville State defeats St. Aug 31-28. Winston-Salem State wins homecoming against Livingstone 34-19. Virginia State mollywopped Lincoln, Pennsylvania 54-7. And that is the end of our recap in HBCU football. Next week, you know, we're going to be talking about next week's games and try to talk a little basketball because the preseason teams have been released. And we want to give some highlight to those student athletes that play round ball because basketball season is coming, Kels.
It's Stephana, that we still have just enough time to see what's going to happen here in football. We are, of course, at the end of the show. I am going to be making my way to Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Saturday. This is the media life. Hop on a plane, fly to a game, you turn around and you come back and you do radio the following night. So we're going to put Derek in charge of picking up the credentials. He'll be there first. We guess Derek can pick up the credentials.
Yeah,
I guess that's how it happened.
But before we leave, we have to recognize our Black College Experience Week 8 champion.
Is it you?
The champ is here. The champ is here.
Yes, it's me.
Is that why
The
you're
champ is here.
It's me. Yes, I was the winner with a 13-2 record. I whooped y'all. So on that note, with me whooping y'all, we finna be out of here. Catch us next week for more Black College Experience. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music.
Tune.
Shutterstock Music.